I come two times a week because my back, of course, yeah. And it works.
Before I couldn't sit, I couldn't walk, I couldn't stand, I could do nothing.
I feel immediately after the session, I feel better.
I met the MASTERCARE on the internet and I start reading the research at that time at Volvo, I think, in Sweden. And I thought, okay, this can be interesting, more interested than the other devices I met. And I tried it on several patients with chronic back problems. And in fact, what we did had very good results at that time, right away. So it started, and then I started working, and I made a program on the table myself, as I was already, since '83, I was working with back problems, and because I have back problems myself, I had back problems myself, not anymore. I thought it could be a good solution in the complete treatment of back problems. I saw a place for the MASTERCARE in that program, in fact, and especially in the beginning of the treatment, where people often have muscle spasm, yeah, because of dysfunction or because of the herniation, or there's a large muscle spasm. So under traction we could first relax the muscles quite fast, especially when using the reciprocal inhibition what I was telling before. When we use that technique, we can, in a few minutes time, we can relax the superficial muscles. When we relax the superficial muscles, we get more space in between the spinal segments, which is very interesting, because when we have nerve compressions, we can release the nerve. Muscles are relaxed, so we get a rehydration of the disc, of course. And when we have the rehydration of the disc, we have more space. We can go further. We can go to mobilization exercises, yeah, which are very important, of course, because we want to have the S curve in the spine. Yeah, we don't want to see. We want to have a supple spine, a spine which can take that S curve. And then, third stage of working on the table, we start with stability training. And why is starting stability training on the MASTERCARE important and much more comfortable? Because we're working in a correct position. We have a complete realignment of the spine, of course, yeah, which is, of course, better, yeah. And when we have the correct position, it's much easier to contract the deep spinal muscles, the multifidi, they are called. So we don't have the inhibition of the superficial muscles, which are relaxed at that time. So it's much easier to ask the work of the deeper muscles, to ask the work of the multifidi. Also the same with the transversal muscles, which are often inhibited by the straight abdominal muscles or the cross abdominal muscles, which are very short sometimes, yeah, especially when people are in curved position, they are short often. So also the work for the transversal muscles, it's much easier, yeah. And then at the end we ask people to contract those transversal and those deeper back muscles, the multifidi, together. So we have a back lock on those spinal segments, yeah. So we have no movement anymore in between the spine segment. And that's very important to stop forming of arthrosis, for instance, to stop dysfunction. That's very important to use. So at the end, in fact, the start of stability training can be much earlier, yeah, than when we use common massage techniques and common physiotherapy. We can just work much faster, which is of course important. Yeah, for the patient himself, it's also much more comfortable. So I think I've given you a few reasons why we use the MASTERCARE in the treatment. So first of all, because it gives us a correct realignment of the spine. It's rehydrating the disc. It's giving you a fast relaxation of the muscles. It's easier to mobilize the spine because we have space in between the spinal segments, of course, and we can start much faster with stability training. Yeah, and of course, when coming back, yeah, and we have that realigned position, and the patient is coming back. He feels that realigned position. Yeah. It feels much different when coming back because maybe the patient walked for several weeks. He walked already like that for several weeks, or it might be for several years. Yeah, and after coming off the MASTERCARE, he feels, yeah, straight up. That is a first step to proprioceptive training. Yeah, because this is the first notice from this is different and it doesn't feel so bad. Yeah, it feels good. The MASTERCARE table, in fact, makes it very easy for us as a physiotherapist because the MASTERCARE does a lot of the work. When you're working on the MASTERCARE, as I said, you have the realignment. Yeah, you have the space in between the spine. So when trying to mobilize the spinal column, it's so much easier. You don't need a lot of power to do it. You know, I'm not the strongest person, so I don't need a lot of work. I remember my physiotherapist when I was younger, and I had a lot of problems myself. He was pushing and pulling, and you know, he ended up in a wheelchair. You know, so. I don't think that could be the meaning of being a physiotherapist. So that's why when I work, I want to work in a comfortable position, and that's perfectly possible on the MASTERCARE. With working with patients on the MASTERCARE, it doesn't take me any power to put the patient back as it balances to put the patient back, so it's easy. But also for the manipulation, even if I do a neck, if I work on a neck problem, it's so easy because I have the space, so I nearly have to put some force to turn or to manipulate. It's so very easy in that way. To be honest, I can recommend it to every physiotherapist who works, and I have given a lot of how do you say it, opleiding and lessons to physiotherapists, and they all they all enjoy working with it because it makes work so much easier. Yeah, and also the patients. Is approving of this because we have more time to talk to the patient and to give him advice on how to work, in what posture. I have the time for that while I'm working in this way. Even if I'm working with 5 patients together, you know, and it's important, in fact, and. There are not many physiotherapists who do that, but I wouldn't like to do it elsewhere because when I have 5 patients here, my patients ask questions, yeah, and all my patients are back patients, neck patients, and when I answer one question, 5 others heard the answer and have benefit of that. Yeah. The patient on table 1 is here for 2 weeks, and the patient on table 1 is here for 2 months, and he has his results already, and he talks to the other, and it motivates the other patients. It's just a good thing to do. Of course, it's hard work, but it's nice work, and we have good results. We can, in some ways, we often give patients their life back because doctors told them, you can't sport again, you can't do this, you can't do that. And here we can say, with your back, you can do everything.